Elk City, Oklahoma, a quiet community of about 12,000 people, located on Interstate 40 and historic U.S. Route 66 in western Oklahoma, approximately 110 miles west of Oklahoma City. The city is the self-proclaimed natural gas capital of the world, complete with Parker Drilling Rig number 114 located downtown. In 2023, from January 18th through January 22nd, over 40 HO-scale model railroaders and trailers from as far away as California, Ohio, and Minnesota converged upon the Elk City Convention Center. It was here that the group filled the 22,000 square foot facility with over 110 Fremo HO-scale model railroad modules that were joined together to create what was probably one of the largest, if not the largest, Fremo model railroad layout set up in North America. Fremo is a modular HO railroading system. Modules are built to a specific set of standards that allows one person's module to connect with any modules built by others. The actual length of all modules was 1,083 feet, which in HO scale would translate to 17.85 scale miles. This event, known as the 2023 Red River Run, was sponsored by the Texas Railway Modeling and Historical Society.
I'm not sure.
Yep, City of Las Vegas.
So, we'll find out.
Fremo provides a friendly and collaborative environment that allows model railroaders to get to know each other and share ideas, knowledge, and tips. It allows members with limited or no space for a home layout to run their trains on a very large layout.
Not yet. Haven't moved into my new home yet.
Do you have plans for one?
Yep, sure do. Missouri Pacific.
I'm dismantling it right now
And why are you dismantling it?
because my older kids decided to move home and I got to build a bedroom
That's a good reason, Donnie.
with my grandkids. There you go.
I'm currently working on the Hope Sub, which is part of the Louisiana and Arkansas, which became part of the Kansas City Southern in 1939. It runs from Shreveport, Louisiana to Hope, Arkansas, and I'm modeling Hope, Arkansas to Minden, Louisiana.
I do not. I have one in the plans, though.
A lot of people do.
Yes. Yep.
I'm working on one. Yeah, it's made of some sections at home, but also I bring my Fremo modules within that permanent layout, and so I can have them operating as part of the layout at home. Kind of helps build the home layout quicker, and also I get to operate and maintain it that way.
Modules are built to standards established by Fremo. The track needs to be 50 inches above the floor. The tracks at the end of a module will be either a single or double track. These tracks must be placed at a specific location to allow connections to the tracks on other modules. To connect a single track module with a double track module, short modules will be placed between them, with double track at one end and a single track at the other end. These are often referred to as 2-to-1 modules. Some short modules will be 45-degree turns. While these are often small in size, they are essential in allowing the layout to curve in order to fit the available space. A module can consist of a single section or multiple sections that will be joined together to form a larger scene. The builder is pretty much free to do whatever they want between the ends of their modules. A track may branch out to multiple tracks within the module to create side tracks where trains can meet and pass each other. To form a large train yard, or to provide tracks for servicing local industries. Large passenger stations with multiple tracks can also be accommodated. This is the Abo Canyon module that was built by David Dane. It is a 7-foot-long, single-section module based on an actual location in New Mexico. The Ryan's Field module is a 4-foot, single-section module from Donnie Berg with double track running through Nebraska. Here is the Sherman Hill module, which is 42 feet long and consists of 7 sections, which includes a 6-foot-long tunnel and tracks that cross over other tracks.
Not on this one, no. This one's a non-signs. So you're going to stop right here. Okay, these are the limits to Dallas Union. We'll stop there. We're going to go to West Pendleton. Okay, we're going to go through Dallas Union, which is right here. But we got to get through Dallas Union Terminal first, okay? So you're good on the main line. If you'll take us through, I'll contact the Dallas Tower. Correct.
And how long have you been in model railroading?
I think my first train set was, you hear the story a lot. I was about 6 years old. Got my first train set, a little Tyco set, and kind of the first thing I remember doing was taking the loop apart and doing point-to-point operation.
Since I was about 5 years old. Started with the starter set on a little 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it's grown from there.
Well, probably 50 plus years now. My grandfather and my uncle built a railroad in my grandparents' house when my uncle was younger. And that was one of the highlights of visiting my grandparents' house, was playing on the model train in the downstairs room in my uncle's bedroom.
I got my first railroad. My dad had it when I was 6 years old, and it was running under the Christmas tree on a piece of plywood.
I was, I think, 8 years old when I got my first HO set, the Alaska Railroad McKinley Explorer.
My dad bought my first train set when I was 2 years old, and I've never put it down. I'm 54 now, so there you go. You do the math.
Did it as a kid, and then fell into high school, the typical story, learned cars and girls and things like that, and fell out of it. And then when I started having children, I decided I wanted something I could share with, maybe something I could enjoy with them. And that was about 7 years ago. got back into it. And that's
on and off probably since I was somewhere near 5. I remember my first Lionel set from my great uncle years and years and years ago. So on and off for, I won't do the math, but it's over 40 years.
But I've been with trains ever since I was about 5 years of age. I started with a wind-up train. No, I started with a wooden train. Strombecker, I think, was the name of the company. And I went to a wind-up train, whose name I manufacturer I don't recall. Then I went to a electric train manufactured by Lewis Marks and Company. And then I went to Lionel. And by the age of about 10 or 12, I was already starting to get very interested in HO scale. I was striving for realism, so much so that I started weathering all my Lionel rolling stock with talcum powder just to dull the sheen on the plastic model. So I think prototype modeling always held a place for me, and that started early.
One of these events does not come together overnight. A tremendous amount of coordination and planning, as well as the time and energy of many individuals, is required. The first challenge was finding a location that could host this event on the desired dates. The facility that was chosen, the Elk City, Oklahoma Convention Center, has about 22,000 square feet of open space, more than enough to accommodate many modules. Invitations were sent to other Fremo groups and members from around the country. A web-based group communications tool was used to share timely information with all participants and to allow questions to be asked and answered about the event. Several online databases stored within the tool were also used to keep track of the many details related to the participants and their modules. Teams were formed to manage layout design, power distribution, freight and passenger operations, dispatching, signaling, and more. Detailed diagrams of the modules that would be coming were collected so that an interesting and functional layout plan could be put together to fit into the available space.
Go ahead. Do you want me in behind Kevin? Passenger train.
I'm into 1951, same as the year I was born. Santa Fe Railroad, Denver Rio Grande Western Railroad, Pacific Electric are the big three.
I do modern day excursion steam power, so that could be any railroad. I'm starting with mainline, so I have a lot of Union Pacific heritage equipment right now, but eventually I hope to have every operational steam locomotive in the U.S. in model form at least.
Well, my primary modeling interest is the Toronto Hamilton to Buffalo from the 1953-1954 era, which was the transition from steam to diesel, and they still ran a lot of passenger trains.
Well, I grew up in Chicago at milepost 10.5 on the CNN sub of the Milwaukee Road. And so Milwaukee Road is my railroad. I bleed orange and black. And right now I'm modeling the Milwaukee Road between St. Paul and Northfield, Minnesota in the early 70s.
I modeled the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe branch line, 1954, during the wheat rush in Kansas. So I don't need I can save myself a lot of money because I don't need a Super Chief, an El Capitan, or any of that fancy stuff. I don't even need war bonnet units. It's zebra stripes, small locomotives, and diesel, and the very last of steam. I'm fudging it a little bit because the steam was gone mostly out there in 1954, but I modeled just a little bit of it.
I model modern railroads. I'm modeling the Pacific Northwest, and I like the Portland and Western Short Line, which also has, they interchange with the UP and the BNSF up there.
I jump around a lot, which again, Fremo allows that. You can carry whatever you want to bring, but I try and stick and gravitate toward 1990s Amtrak. But I've been known for around 1950s Santa Fe. But I mean, you name it, I want to run it.
As the date of the event approaches, participants very carefully begin packing up their modules and start their drive to the event. You'll see many different methods for transporting and setting up modules. A variety of crates and shelving units are used to transport modules safely. Some modules will have casters on their legs to allow easy movement and positioning of the modules. One module is designated as the Keystone module. This module will be precisely placed into a specific location in the room, and all other modules will emanate from there. The massive Dallas Union Terminal module served as the Keystone module for this event. It features 3 exit routes that facilitated the construction of 3 separate regions on the layout. Let's watch as the layout comes together. Setup began at 3 p.m. Wednesday, and the assembly was completed by late Thursday afternoon. Once a module is in position, height adjustment screws are used to raise the legs off the floor and to get the track the required 50 inches above the floor. Modules are leveled to account for any imperfections in the floor surface and to ensure that all track is at the same height between modules. This is done using levels and other high-tech methods. The gaps between tracks at module ends will use short, custom sections of track, called rail fitters, to bridge these spaces. Installing these is tedious work that requires short sections of track, rail cutters to cut the track to the correct length, files to smooth rough spots, small screwdrivers to push the rail joiners onto the track, and band-aids for the occasional fingertips that get cut during the process. Here is the final track plan for the layout. The hub of the layout was the Dallas Union Terminal module. From there, the layout was divided into 3 regions that branched out from there. Each region had subdivisions and branch lines within them. The 3 regions were the Western region, the Southern region, and the Northern region. Once everything has been connected and thoroughly tested, the focus turns to one of the primary goals of this event: running trains. There were many freight trains making their way around the layout. Blocks of cars to be delivered to industries would be assembled in yards. Switch lists were prepared for each freight train to indicate what cars would need to be dropped off or picked up at the various locations on the layout. An operator would connect their locomotive to the train in the yard and take it out to perform its duties. When all was completed, the train would return to the yard to deliver any cars that it had picked up along the way. There were also numerous passenger trains weaving their way around the layout. The history of passenger trains from the early 1900s to the current day was represented by the wide variety of passenger trains operating on the layout. Self-propelled rail cars, known as doodlebugs, from the early 1900s worked their way around the layout. The name is said to have been derived from the insect-like appearance of the units as well as the slow speeds at which they would doodle down the tracks. These had gasoline engines and were used to provide passenger, freight, and mail service on lightly used branch lines at less expense than with a train consisting of a locomotive and coaches with a larger crew. Steam locomotives, pulling heavyweight passenger cars, were also seen during the first half of the 20th century, transporting riders from station to station. The transition to diesels that began in the 1930s was represented by one of the Burlington Railroad's early Zephyr train sets. In the mid-1930s, diesels began taking over from steam locomotives to lead heavyweight passenger trains. By the late 1930s, diesels had become the main source of power for passenger trains, leading fleets of lightweight, streamlined passenger cars. Current-day Amtrak trains were also taking passengers to their destinations around the layout. Special trains were also featured, such as the George Bush Funeral Train, and Union Pacific's steam excursion trains. Operators also staged a meeting of the famed California Zephyr streamliners. The eastbound and westbound Zephyrs would actually pass each other in Glenwood Canyon, Colorado, and riders in the dome cars of each train would wave to each other. The Farmers Co-op module was used as the location for the meet on this layout. Many of the participants at the event have experience working in the railroad industry. Their real-life experience certainly helps to make the layout look and operate like the real thing.
Going back to the summer of 1977, I got to be a brakeman for the Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo Railway. And upon my graduation from college, I hired on to Santa Fe Railway, stayed with them through the Burlington Northern Santa Fe merger, and retired from them after 39 years.
For about 5 years, I've been a steam locomotive engineer at the Omaha Zoo Railroad. Other than that, I've just had a lifelong interest in trains.
for most of my life, I've been a pilot of some sort or another. And after the economic meltdown in '08, I got furloughed, and I spent a year working for Union Pacific. I was a conductor and a Class 6 locomotive engineer, which were the remote controls.
I'm a retired 40-year railroad man. Worked at both Union Pacific, Amtrak, and Metrolink.
I'm currently a crew hauler, contract crew hauler for the BNSF and the Union Pacific. Been doing that for 8.5 years, and you can't get any closer to the action than I am.
So what's a crew hauler?
A crew hauler is somebody who takes the crews to where they need to be. They show up for work, they get a train assignment. It could be 2 blocks away or 200 miles away, and I take them there.
I'm 5th generation railroad. My grandfather all worked for Santa Fe. My dad works for Amtrak, and I work for Union Pacific. Began my career in 2009. Currently a locomotive engineer on Tehachapi.
Daily briefings were held each morning to cover any issues that came up on the previous day, to answer any questions, and to prepare everyone for the day ahead. As much as possible, the layout was operated just like an actual railroad. With so many trains running around the layout, how were traffic jams and bottlenecks avoided? For several hours each day, a team operated as the dispatchers for the layout. They managed the routing and movement of the trains to keep everything flowing smoothly. Radios, whiteboards, and an Excel spreadsheet were used. It definitely felt and sounded like a real railroad.
DCS 616 departing to own loop. Request permission to go to Dow loop.
The layout was so big that binoculars were used to see what was going on at the other end of the room. When the dispatchers were off duty, operators were free to run their trains around the layout, but they needed to keep an eye on what was ahead of them or behind them in case they'd need to take a siding to allow an oncoming train to pass by or to get out of the way of a faster train that was behind them. Fremo and the model railroading hobby are about much more than just running trains. Friendships are formed. Stories are swapped.
I've got 4 of those lounge chairs. The actual lounge chairs,
Oh, wow,
yeah.
nice.
Members collaborate with each other to share tips and new ideas that help improve everyone's skill level and enjoyment of the hobby. At this event, group dinners were also held at the Prairie Fire Restaurant, which is appropriately located in a historic train station built in the early 1900s. What do you enjoy most about model railroading and Fremo?
The community of it. I think the 3 days we've been here, I've ran maybe 2 trains. I've enjoyed catching up with everyone. There's people I haven't seen in years, people I've never met face to face, and that's probably my biggest thing about it.
I guess one of the things that I find really enjoyable is that we can do more collectively than you can ever do as an individual. Looking at what we filled here with 20,000 square feet, it would take a lifetime at least to build this if we had unlimited funds and time.
Being able to take my modules anywhere in the country and set up with other like-minded individuals.
It's an opportunity to actually run trains. I don't have a home layout, and what this gives me the opportunity to do is all those nice long 14, 15 car passenger trains, I can put them on a layout and run them to my heart's content.
The camaraderie, the interaction with other modelers around the country, getting to know them, their backgrounds, what their likes, dislikes.
The best thing about Fremo is it's a worldwide standard. There's about 40 or so chapters in the United States, and when you set up for a layout, you never set up the same way twice.
I don't have a home layout. My layout is the Fremo layout. So today, this weekend, I have a 22,000 square foot layout that I'm sharing with my friends.